Yo, what is up, Hoophead Nation? And welcome to Buzzer Beaters, episode 62. And I got to tell you, this is going to be a juicy one because we're going to be talking about a few things that we didn't see coming. First of all, the Spurs just had their first loss.
Yes.
And we don't know right now whether or not this is because the Phoenix Suns actually exposed Wembanyama. So we don't know if we just witnessed Wembanyama's kryptonite. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that. Did we witness it? The second thing that we're going to talk about is, are the Lakers better? Are they better without Luka and LeBron? Well, they sure look like they're better because they're playing a lot better, right? And what's interesting is you're seeing now Austin Reeves is out for tonight's game too, right? So it's like, okay, what's going on here? I think, JJ Redick is starting to see that his team is responding. These other guys are stepping up, and I think he's getting a lot more chemistry developing here right now in the short term. So it's going to be interesting once these guys come back, how this team functions. The other topic is, something that Twan brought up last year is that, hey, look, he's thinking that the retirement horizon is right around the corner for Mr. Mr. Jokic, because the observation is that guy looks like he's out of shape, but yet he's still doing what he's doing. But he looks out of shape, right? Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about. And bro, should we take the Sixers and the Bulls seriously at this point? I mean, man, it's like 6-7 games, and they had a doozy of a game last night. I don't know if you saw that, but it was a doozy of a game. And the Bulls came back from like a 17 deficit, right? And they came back. And then last, we break it up into two segments. We're going to take a walk around the NBA. That's always what we talk about. But we want to kind of give you some topics that we're going to go ahead and talk about. But, the second segment is all about Warriors because, you can see based on our shirts, we're Warrior fans. But every week we're going to go ahead and talk about all the NBA first and then the Warriors second. But one of the things I've observed, Twan, is that the Warriors seem to be kind of getting into their old habits again, man. And, we can talk a little bit about that. But I just want to go ahead and give you a heads up as to, Hoophead Nation, what you're going to hear in episode 62 this week. So before we get into it, Twan, what's been going on with you, brother? Anything
man. Like I told you last week, kitchen's almost done. So we're getting close to that. Been watching a lot of hoops. So been loving that. I've been watching a little bit of football, trying to keep up with my fantasy football team.
Dude, our team sucks, man. You and I have this team in our league, and we suck. We call the system kids.
My other squad's holding up, though. It's holding up, so we'll see. I'm making a little bit of a comeback.
Oh, right on. That's the one that you have to pay $1,000 to play, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, are you doing all right? You want some money, bro?
You're gonna put me on blast here in front of everybody, yeah.
Oh, that's all right, bro. Hey, man. Hey, $1,000 it's a serious deal, bro.
Yeah. Started off a little rough, but starting to climb up the charts now.
Right on, man.
Rowdle, the running back over there in Carolina.
Dowdle, Rico Dowdle.
Sorry, Dowdle. Yep. He's been my superhero, bro. That guy's been piling up points left and right. So anyway, I don't want to take us off topic, but yeah, those are some of the things I've been focusing on this past week.
Right on, brother. Right on. And for me,
How about you?
Dude, for me, I'm still dealing with this freaking gout crap, man. It's been like 6-7 weeks, man, and I'm like, what the hell's going on, man? It's kind of weird. I've been on meds, and it seems to not really help that much. So I'm wondering if I'm allergic to these things, man. But other than I'm hobbling around. But dude, I haven't gone. I used to go to the gym like 4 to 5 times a week, bro. Like doing like high intensity interval training kind of stuff. And dude, I haven't been able to do jack in like 7 weeks, bro. I haven't done anything, dude. Yeah. So I'm surprised that my weight hasn't come back on. But I've only eaten 1 meal a day, right? So I've been doing the 1 meal a day OMAP, intermittent fasting thing for the last 2 years, and that's kept my weight off. Although that one meal, how much I eat, bro. I go to town on it, bro. But I've been scaling that back a little bit, bro. Yeah. But anyway, so without further delay, we try to get our podcasts here to do it in like 45 minutes or less, right? And we're here live every week, everyone. Buzzer Beaters is an NBA podcast brought to you by grumblingsmedia.com. You can find us at grumblingsmedia.com as well as anywhere you find your podcasts. Just tune in here live every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and we just talk about hoops, NBA primarily, all right? All right, man, let's go take a walk around the NBA. This time we're going to go ahead and start with the Western Conference because some of the teasers that we put up there primarily were Western Conference, although we did tease about the Eastern Conference with the Sixers and the Bulls. So first things first, bro. Did you see the game with Wembanyama against the Phoenix Suns?
I saw the highlights. I didn't see the game or
Yeah.
some of the lowlights, but go ahead. Yeah, I saw some of the impact that their double big man Phoenix attempt to guard Wembanyama had was surprisingly effective.
Yeah, bro. And I got to tell you, back in our day when we played hoops, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a center type. I'm 5'10", 5'11" at best, right? With a good pair of like sneakers, I'm 5'11". But I got to tell you, bro, anytime, I've always been a kind of a big burly guy, but anytime I saw a skinny tall guy, I'm like, dude, this is gonna be fun, dude, right? Because I always just screen these guys out.
Shove them
Even if
around, yeah.
they could block my shot, I'll screen them out. I'll move them
Yep.
around, bro, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's the thing with Wembanyama. He's got a high center of gravity, bro. I mean, he's 7'5", maybe 7'6" now, from what I've heard, right? And he came to the league, and growing, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that because of that, some of these burly guys like Mark Williams, like Nick Richards, those are the two, centers that the Phoenix Suns have, and both of them came actually from the Charlotte Hornets, right?
Yeah.
So both of these guys are burly, athletic kind of guys.
Malawach is pretty burly too.
Malawach too, but he didn't play. He hasn't been playing that much.
Yeah, he hasn't been playing that much, but I'm just pointing out
but
the centers they got are thick.
They're thick. They're athletic, right?
Yeah.
And Mark Williams is a problem, man. The Warriors just played the Phoenix Suns, last night, and they beat them pretty handily. But you could see if they, the Phoenix Suns are kind of a hit and miss team as far as 3-point shots. I mean, they take so many 3-pointers. It's very similar to how the Rockets did back in the day with James Harden, as well as the Warriors, right? And they're gonna live and die by that three. And when they played against the Spurs, their threes were sinking, right? And of course, Wembanyama became like a volume shooter, man. I mean, he had a horrible percentage, but it's the thing is that when he goes inside with these bigger, burly guys, he's getting moved around, right? So it kind of forced him to stay outside a little bit because he wasn't able to do what he normally does inside, and it became inefficient, man. What did you observe, man? If anything else that you saw from that game?
No, I agree. In this day and age, one of the things that I always think about, because we, like you mentioned, we grew up old school basketball where the center played in the low post and didn't venture too far out, and now the centers are everywhere. They're asked to play defense out to the 3-point line.
Yeah.
They're asked to come back and get rebounds and things of that nature. And I'm always kind of struggling, right, with like where should the center's natural kind of habitat be?
Yeah.
Both on offense, on defense. So clearly on defense, Wembanyama's going to be at the low post, right? He's going to block shots. He's going to try to do that. But if you got a big guy kind of posting down with him, that can prevent him from doing some of that, right? Just by posting him up. And so, and on offense, he clearly prefers the perimeter, right?
Yes.
Based on the way he dribbles,
yes.
Based on the way he shoots, right? He clearly prefers that. I guess the question is that the most effective use for a big man, to be on the perimeter like that?
I think it depends on the skill set, bro. I'll tell you this. He is a unicorn because he can dribble like a guard. He can drive like a small forward, right? The one thing that we don't know yet, and I don't think he's had to develop it yet, is that low post game. Where like he's worked out with Akeem in the offseason. I'm sure that's come into play with his footwork. But his footwork is when he's driving to the hoop, but not necessarily back to the basket kind of moves. He hasn't had to do that really yet. So in my opinion, he is close to a unicorn because of his skill set as a 7'5" guy, having the skill set of a guard. But if you can go ahead and have a post-up game that's like kind of like Akeem Olajuwon was, like maybe a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like a Wilt Chamberlain, then you have the true unicorn right there. If you have that outside perimeter game as well as that low post kind of, dream shake, all these, being able to do like a shot from both sides, whether you're left or you're right, that in my opinion is, the epitome of a unicorn from an overall center standpoint. Now, you bring up a good question. Should a center reside inside or outside? It really depends on the skill set of the center, right? You're seeing a lot of these centers stay outside because, frankly, man, look, for me as a basketball player myself, big burly guy, dude, it took a lot of work to kind of do what I need to do down low. Yeah. I could do it, man, but the bigger, taller guys are going to block my shot all the time. And if we're playing street ball, I can't call foul every freaking play, right? Because, that just slows down the game. But if I was in a game with the ref, I'll get the calls because I could, move around, move my body. but I had the skill set to be able to do both, but I just wasn't tall enough, right? I just wasn't being able to do that. For right now, and for me as a big guy, when I was playing down low, it's just a lot of work and just you take a lot of lumps and bruises. So sometimes I stayed outside because I could shoot, right? And it's a lot easier to score if you can do that. And you take a lot less lumps. And that's probably what's been kind of like something that Wembanyama kind of sees. It's like, hey man, I'm a big guy, but there's some bigger, stronger guys than me. And if I'm skillful out here to be able to shoot and be able to drive, I'll be able to save a lot more wear and tear on my body than if I just went ahead and stayed down low the whole time, right? So that's probably why you're seeing some of this right now with the NBA, because it's really a perimeter game right now. Everybody's shooting.
No, it is. But the other question I have is, one of the added benefits when you have a big man that can come outside is that he draws the big man of the defense out.
Yes.
Right. Yes. I guess my question is, or my part of the solving of Wembanyama is, do you even want to do that? Right? Do you even want to send out the big man? Do you want him to now be guarded by someone that's smaller? I don't want to say quite a small man, but maybe a 3 or a 2, is out there guarding him, and you keep the big man down in the low post, thus preventing the other players from attacking the hoop. Right?
Yeah.
So but with Wembanyama, it's kind of interesting just because of his, I look at him and I see a guard. I don't see a center. I see a guard. Yeah. Right. So what do you do with a 7'5", 7'6" guard? What do you do with that? Right now, if his perimeter shot, if he becomes a 44, 45% 3-point shooter, oh God help us.
Exactly.
No one's going to be able to stop that. But at the other end of the game, what are the other, how does this all work from an offensive perspective? Where do you have all 5 guys on the perimeter? Do you have anyone in the post? Do you how does this work? So all of this is to say that, I don't know if Phoenix found the secret, kind of formula to stopping Wembanyama. I do know that I think that obviously you need to have more big men in there, and Wembanyama, I think in the long term will get more and more exposed in regards to his low post presence, or how much he can get rebounds, how much he can box low. Right. I mean, some of he's gonna need some of that to create balance, because if he becomes just a perimeter player, there's going to be other problems that are going to arise just because of his size.
Yeah, but the thing is that the Phoenix Suns have these 2 burly centers, right? And it's kind of like we're seeing the dawn of the big men coming back again, right? It's starting to come back. It started with the whole Twin Towers thing with Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. They kind of were the pioneers of bringing it back, right? No, they're no longer together anymore, but the big men have come back a little bit because the Phoenix Suns have those 2 guys. You also have Oklahoma City Thunder. They have Chet Holmgren. You also have Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Then you got freaking the Rockets. They have Alperen Sengun, and now they have Steven Adams. They've deployed both of these guys at the same time, for multiple games, including against the Warriors, right? But that gives teams a lot of flexibility. It kind of limits their offense if those guys really can't do anything offensively. They're both defensive-minded guys. But when it's a matchups-based league. If they're going up against a Wembanyama who is pretty close to a unicorn, they can go ahead and deploy these 2 big guys, and just the more agile guy like a Chet Holmgren can pretty much stay on the outside, and have a big guy down low for everybody else, who's trying to drive to the basket, right?
Bingo.
So so that's probably the recipe. Maybe this is the kryptonite right now that the Phoenix has revealed.
Correct, but that kryptonite requires the talent, the
talent,
right?
The ability to be able to do that.
So in every example you've given, or most of the examples you've given, you got a stretch big and a traditional big, right? Steven Adams is by no means a stretch big.
Right.
Rudy Gobert is by no means a stretch big.
But he can guard the perimeter, bro.
He can guard, well, unless it's Curry, but
right. But nobody can guard him.
No, I understand. I'm poking fun at Rudy Gobert a little bit. But but you're right, he can guard the perimeter, but in that matchup, let's just say Towns and Gobert were still together and they were playing against the Spurs, Towns would be the one to go out, I think, right?
Yeah.
Or do you think it would be Gobert?
I don't know. He's not as agile as Gobert.
Okay.
Gobert.
Yeah.
So
right. And in the instance of Sengun, I mean, he can shoot the perimeter 3, but he's not a fluid type player. He's still a pretty heavy set player.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. I just wanted to say, as I teased when we first started this episode, did Phoenix essentially reveal the kryptonite? Right? It's possible. We shall
Yes.
see what happens in the coming games. But it really, really depends on the personnel of the team that's defending, the Spurs. If they have two big guys where one can kind of stay outside, Mark Williams isn't that agile, but he's pretty athletic. So he's probably the guy that could probably, be deployed out there. Nick Richards is the same guy, but there's always going to be one guy left behind to be able to, defend everybody else, right? So,
but let me ask you this, Eddie. Just question here now.
Yeah.
Do you think that any of the players you mentioned, Rudy Gobert included, would alter the shot of Wembanyama?
No, they can't, but they can make it harder for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some sort of so you think that he would make it harder than if you had Amen Thompson out on Wembanyama?
If Wembanyama decides to pull up and has the strength to pull up anywhere without having to go ahead and do that crab dribble to be able to shoot, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be unstoppable because he has a pretty high release point anyway.
That's my point. His release is very high.
It's very high.
So the question I have is, does it matter how large the defender is on him?
I think it does, because especially if you have somebody like a Chet Holmgren, somebody like a Rudy Gobert, somebody like a Şengün, right? He's pretty athletic too. Those guys can get their arms up quicker and at least give the facade that they're challenging the shot, right? Okay. So I think that, yes, I think they can. Now,
which by the way, the Rockets already also have Durant, which is very tall.
He's 7 foot, although he doesn't want to be called 7 foot. He's like Kevin
6'12".
Garnett.
6'12" is what he prefers.
Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, so anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and just, that was our first segment as we're taking a walk around the Western Conference. So the second thing, we also tease is about Jokic, right? Yes. The Joker, one thing that you brought up was just very tantalizing, is that you observed that, this guy doesn't seem to be really that into basketball, right? Mm-hmm. And typically when you see somebody come in out of shape, that's typically a tell that they really don't care, right? And that was your observation. You're thinking Joker really only really cares about horses. And we all saw the excitement that he had when his horses won the race and stuff. He was like tearing up, crying, emotional. You never saw that when he's won his MVPs or his championships, right?
I agree.
His one championship, right? But so that you're the one who brought up this topic as far as whether we're seeing essentially the end is near as far as Joker, as far as his desire to continue playing in the NBA, man. So I'll let you go ahead and continue talking about that, because that was
yeah. So the thing that I'm curious about is what keeps him playing, right? If I could for a minute just reflect on what I think is going on. I think he sees basketball as a job. It's an occupation. It pays the bills, whatever. But I don't know if like I said, I don't see him being emotional about the sport. I don't see him, necessarily seem like he cares. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. It's just my perspective. And so my whole thought process here is, at what point, how is he calculating all this? Like, is he trying to make a certain amount of money? Is he trying to make a certain amount of years? Does his ranking in the Mount Rushmore matter to him at all? Like, what's driving him to play? And the problem that I have with what appeared to be his kind of demeanor is that the minute that this becomes more problematic than it's worth, he's going to leave.
And I think,
right, because now, I think he looks at it as, hey, yeah.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Tuan, is that I think the one thing that could essentially expedite your observation about him maybe leaving early is if he has a major injury, bro. A major injury. If somebody's not that into it, they're going to be like, man, this is it. I'm done, man. And he's fortunate that his game allows him to play the style that he plays, because he doesn't really work that hard, bro. If you watch that guy play, he doesn't work that hard. It's amazing how effective he is, man, because he is so smart. He knows how to go ahead and pass the ball without even having to look at where that pass is going. he's a big, strong, burly dude, right? And you know, we brought this up before. He's got other brothers that are bigger than him, bro. Can you imagine that, bro? I mean, this guy's a big dude.
No, I
He's
can't.
a big dude,
I can't.
right? And the thing
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
he's not athletic. Not even, I mean, he's not even close to being athletic, right? He's just so freaking gifted from an overall basketball IQ standpoint. He just, you know, he just has the ability, and his shot is unbelievable, dude. He's got a great shot and a really high release point. He's got the Jack Sikma kind of look
behind the back,
he's
man.
way
Yeah,
back there, man.
back.
And it's hard to defend that. You know, he's got every shot. He can shoot the three at a pretty good clip. He can do the fadeaway Dirk Nowitzki shot. He's, you know, he could do the low post game too. Yeah, I mean, he's as close as we see as a unicorn, except that he does not have the athleticism like the Wembanyama, right? If you had Wembanyama with Jokic's skill set, that's the unicorn, right? Because Jokic can go ahead and play inside and outside, and he's effective at both inside and outside. He may not be able to shoot off the dribble like a Wembanyama can, right? Again, we're being nitpicky on what a unicorn is, but a unicorn to me is being able to do all of that as well as down low and being able to shoot off the dribble, shoot from outside, drive to the basket, do the you know the hooks from both, you know, any shot from down low and be very efficient at it. And Jokic he's amazing at that, bro. I can't believe some of the shots he's able to make down low. So bring it back to your comment though, bro. I think that I kind of see what you're talking about. I can see that, you know, he doesn't seem to be that interested as much. Maybe he never was, right? But I think that we're going to see him. If we ever see an injury from him, I think that's when you're going to see him kind of say, I'm out. I'm done. Right? So,
you know, every once in a while, the golfer we talked about, I forgot his name, the one about that it provides for my family. I forgot. We talked about
Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler.
Yes, Scotty Scheffler. Yes. We talked about him. Megatron. Yep. Every once in a while, you run into an athlete that, and good for them, they refuse to let the sport define who they are. Right? They consider themselves just a person that plays the sport, but it's not who they are. And I think that Joker is in that mindset. Like his interest, who he is outside of the sport. And you're right. And obviously what leads to getting injuries is being overweight, which he is right now. He's playing himself into shape, you know. And so these are the things that could potentially come up. You know, he didn't sign an extension when Denver offered him one. He said it's not a big deal. You know, we'll get it done later. To me, I think he just needs time. I think he's thinking he needs time to just figure out what he wants to do. You know, how's he going to proceed? I don't think I think other people are interpreting like maybe he wants to play for another team. I don't think it's any of that, dude. And I will tell you this, the one thing that might make him happy, and I don't see it happening, is if he gets the opportunity to play with some of his fellow countrymen. And not necessarily from his country, but from Eastern Europe, you know, Luka, a couple of these guys. If he gets you know, maybe somehow bringing, you know, a little bit more of his feel to the team, you know, in terms of his background and his culture, I think that may be something that would make him smile at least. But I don't see that happening. I mean, it could, I guess,
or maybe just bring his horses and be a part of the halftime show and make him there all the time. That'll make him happy, bro.
Sure.
He'll be emotional when he sees his horses out there doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Go, horsey, go.
All right, bro. So let's move on to the next. So the Lakers. All right, this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. So the Lakers have been without Luka, although Luka is going to play tonight. They have been without Luka, and they've been without LeBron for about the last 4 games, right? And LeBron hasn't played since the beginning. He hasn't even played one game yet. It's supposed to be due back here in a couple of weeks. But then what's happened is you have other guys that have flourished. You have Austin Reeves, who has flourished. You have Jake LaRavia, flourished. DeAndre Ayton, flourished, right? All these guys, Vanderbilt. Whoa, it's like all of a sudden this team, you know, they were projected, you know, to be the third best odds-on favorite to win the championship, and I was kind of laughing about that. But then now, you know, after 6-7 games into the season, without their big stars, these other guys have stepped up and they're playing a better brand of basketball. You brought up in last week's podcast that the ball dominant guys are not in there, and that's why you're seeing this free flow kind of read and react kind of offense, which has served them right. Although they've been getting away with not being able to shoot at a high clip. Although Austin Reeves has done pretty well shooting. Jake LaRavia, believe it or not, has shot pretty good too, although he's not really known as a shooter. But this team seems to be functioning better without them. Are they better without Luka and LeBron, bro?
So it depends on how you define better. But no, they're not better. They're more fluid. I think in the regular season, they're better. I mean, Eddie, you and I have played a lot of hoops, and we know what it feels like when you get a pickup game and you got this one dude that never gives up the ball. And you may start off kind of making a cut, and then after about a couple of shots, you're like, this dude's not going to give it up. I'm just going to stand in the corner, and I'm just going to see if he can win this on his own. And I think that's some of what happens here, right? These guys know Luka's in there. He's going to dribble. And if he can't get a shot, he'll throw it to you with like 2 seconds left on the shot clock. And, you got to make something happen, right? Same thing. LeBron's a little bit more fluid. He's a little bit of I would say a more active passer than Luka is. Luka's a little more like Harden, in that sense. And I wouldn't say LeBron's like that. But they still dominate the ball, so it just makes everyone
they're waiting for something to happen. Waiting for the ball.
They're waiting for something to happen, and right now they're all in it. Like, you need me, I need to participate, I need to be part of this. So I think in the regular season, that's probably going to go. But when you get to the postseason, it's just I don't think they could. I don't think they would.
Yeah, I agree with you. But what's happened here is it's a blessing in disguise, right? And this is something that we'll get to our Warriors segment, but. In the years past, when the Warriors won the championship, it's all strength in numbers, right? And a lot of times, when one of their main guys, whether it be Klay Thompson, Curry, Iguodala, Draymond Green, whoever, anytime those guys got hurt, it gave the opportunity, like a Sean Livingston, to step up. It gave the opportunity, like a Maurice Spates, to step up, right? And this is what I think is happening here, is that the Lakers, have a bunch of, just the guys, is what, to steal Charles Barkley, his moniker about what that is. But, they are filled with a bunch of guys that are kind of like that, right? They don't really have, their big three, we're seeing how talented Austin Reeves really is as a player. Can you believe that guy went undrafted? All right. That kind of shows you, like, what are these scouts looking at, bro? These guys, this guy played that well, I'm sure, but they just saw, this guy just looks like one of these country guys, just doesn't know how to play. But, he's just, lucky. I don't know. Played at Oklahoma. Had a pretty good career, but we're seeing that guy he really has game, right? He is a gamer, man. I like him, man, a lot. And I don't like the Lakers, and I hate calling out a Laker that I like, but I really like him, right? But you got him now, then you got LeBron coming back, then you got Luka, then you got the emergence, hopefully, of DeAndre Ayton. We shall see. I think and then Jake LaRavia, who's become like a 6th or 7th man. That's coming off Jared Vanderbilt, if he stays healthy. This team looks kind of, Rui Hachimura. This team looks kind of, scary a little bit. And then you got Marcus Smart, doing what he does, right? So this team could essentially emerge as a team to reckon with if, if they continue playing the way that they're playing once those big guys come back, right? So.
Correct. You hope that they get the confidence and they're feeling more comfortable. DeAndre Ayton is the one that I'm really questioning. Like, once those come back, I think he's the most likely suspect to revert back to kind of his old ways. The other person I want to bring up that's pretty much out of the rotation is Dalton Knecht. Like, he's not even.
He plays sparingly. Yes, he doesn't really play that much. I agree with you. He does not. Yeah. I agree.
But what I will say is, I don't know how I felt about JJ Redick, the coach, but watching the team play right now really makes him seem like a better coach.
Oh yeah.
When he's got the two stars there, they seem like the offense seems a lot more standstill. So
no, I agree with you. Now, it remains to be seen. I think once those guys get integrated, we're going to see, if this way that the way the Lakers are playing, if this is going to, if it's here to stay, or if it's going to change once those ball dominant guys come back.
Correct.
I tend to believe that it's probably going to revert back, but hopefully the confidence is now instilled with some of these other guys who have showed up now in the first 7 games. or at least 3 of the first 7 games, that gives them the confidence that they can contribute even when those guys come back. Right.
The $1 million question is, if they both see, I think LeBron is a smart, and I'm saying smart enough. Obviously, he's a smart player,
right?
But he's smart enough to know and see this. And I think that he's the more likely candidate that would try to keep that type of vibe moving.
Yeah.
Once he comes back. The question then becomes, can Luka be as effective if he doesn't have the ball all the time?
I don't know. That remains to be seen, because we haven't seen that really. I mean, Luka is very good at, creating his own shot and giving other people a shot, but he has to have the ball in his hand to be effective, right?
Yeah.
He can't run off screens as well as some other players in the league.
Yeah.
He doesn't, he can pass the ball, but it's when he has the ball, like, dribbling, right? Doesn't seem like when he gets the ball and be able to pass it to somebody else, probably not as good as that as when he has the ball in his hand, because he can use his size to, essentially use leverage and create space, man. So, real quick. So we got 15 minutes, and I know we have to get through a lot more here, bro. But before I move on to the East, we kind of spent a lot of time on the West, but any disappointments that you've observed so far in the West? Some teams that you thought would be a lot better up to this point. It's a small sample size, but who stands out in your mind as teams that should be better when they're not right now?
Well, the Rockets have seemed to have found a groove. I would have suggested them last week, but they seem to have found a groove.
Yep.
The Clippers are still trying to, I think, figure things out.
Yep.
I would say that they're probably, I wouldn't say a disappointment, but I think they're still trying to figure things out.
Okay.
Not really so much a disappointment, but I thought Utah started pretty strong.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw, but Kessler's out for the rest of the year now.
Oh my God, I did not see that.
Yes, shoulder surgery, so he's out. So that's kind of disappointing.
Oh yeah.
You got a lot of young players there. Kessler, Marketing,
Filipowski.
Yeah, and all of these guys that they're trying to build something there. And so to have something like that happen, that's a little disappointing to see if they could, do that. Memphis has been very disappointing, in my opinion.
And John Moran has actually been suspended because of insubordination, right? He was
exactly. He's blaming the coaches for the opportunities he gets or the lack thereof. So that's been a little disappointing, I would say. And there was one of the Pelicans. They can't.
Oh shit!
They can't seem to figure it out.
They've only have one game won, right?
Yes.
But I agree with you, man. And they have Zion Williamson, a guy who's actually gotten in better shape and actually shows like he's playing pretty well. And, Jordan Poole being on that team, that Trey Murphy, they have guys that can play. They don't have DeJounte Murray, so right. I don't know when that guy's going to come back. But, they have a Grand Theft Alvarado. He's not necessarily a starter, but he's a good little scrappy little player. So they have players there. He's Missy, as a center. They have players there, but for whatever reason, they're just not meshing yet. And it's still early, but they shouldn't be 1-6, man.
No, but I will tell you, Jordan Poole got benched, right? So he got taken out of the starting lineup. I never thought we got enough back for the Jordan Poole trade when we did it.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, that move, just getting rid of Jordan Poole, doesn't seem like such a bad thing.
No, I do. I think
he hasn't really done anything since.
He hasn't shaken the cobwebs due to freaking the whole Draymond Green incident, right?
Well, I think we're beyond the cobwebs now, Eddie. I don't think
maybe the cobwebs, or maybe he's just his confidence got shattered, man, from that, right? That could have a bearing on that, man.
Possible, right, but then I would say though, if that's true, then he was never going to be the player that he was.
Maybe
you're going to run into something or another.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But the last team I want to point out in the West that's a disappointment before we move on to the East, and then we have to get to our next segment on the Warriors. So the one team that we brought it up last week, the Mavericks. The Mavericks are struggling, man. They're 2-5, right? They should be way better than that. I mean, they're below the Sacramento Kings, believe it or not, right now, right? Yeah. And we both picked Sacramento Kings to be down in the doldrums, right? But the Mavs have way too much talent. Now you got Anthony Davis, who got hurt again. His calf, right? He's out, right? And then you got, Gafford just got reintroduced. Lively has been out. This team, man, they remind me of the 49ers, man. They're always getting injured, bro. Man, I'm telling you, bro, it's brutal. But this team's a disappointment so far in the early part of the season.
It is, and we talked about it last week. A lot of it has to do with having flag run point.
Yeah,
I just
but
think
they're doing that in necessity. But you would think D'Angelo Russell should be doing it, and he should.
I think they should have Russell play point.
I agree, bro. I agree.
I mean, at least for the first couple of weeks, get a groove and then figure things out. But
yep, no, I agree with you, man.
Yeah,
so all right, man.
Big knock there.
We gave a big inordinate amount of time to the West. Now we got to go ahead and go to the East. Now I brought up the Sixers and the Bulls, right? These are two teams that we had nowhere did we even think that they were going to be sniffing near the top. Now it's still early, small sample size, but they had a doozy of a game last night, bro. All right, the Sixers and Bulls were in a freaking dogfight, and I got to tell you, bro, Josh Giddey is balling, man. He is balling. Okay. Last night, from a fantasy standpoint, he scored 63.9 points, bro. All right. And that's at a price point of like, I think it was like $8,900, right around there in that range, 9,100, 8,900 bucks. That's ridiculous value right there, right? The guy is balling, dude. All right. Then you got Vucevic didn't even have that good of a game last night. He's typically their second best player on that team. You know, it's just amazing how well this team is doing. Patrick Williams is doing what he does from a defensive standpoint. You know, it's just, you know, I'm amazed at how well that trade has worked out for both the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls sit at the top of the Eastern Conference right now, 6-1, right? Then you got the 76ers, and then you got also the Detroit Pistons. They're both at 5-2. Milwaukee Bucks, man, all right, they actually are playing a lot better than everybody thought too. They just beat our Warriors. We'll get into that too, but you know, these teams right here are big surprises this far, man. What are your thoughts, man? Anything that you're seeing surprises? Anything you want to touch upon?
No, I mean, I think Edgecombe has put a big kick start in
for sure in
the Sixers record.
He looks like the rookie of the year right now, bro.
Yes, right now, does. easily rookie of the year.
Yes,
easily.
Yes.
And then Chicago Bulls, you know, I haven't had an opportunity to watch them as much as you have. You know, you got your little sneak peek box there, which you can see a little more. So I have not had the opportunity, but I have been keeping track of the stats. And yes, Giddey has been a monster. He's been doing well. Right now, I think you had an early question. I think this is sort of a mirage with the Bulls.
You still think the Bulls are a mirage?
I think it's a little bit of a mirage. The Sixers, not so much. I think the Sixers might be the real deal. Although I am curious on what the Embiid effect is going to have on that team.
Yeah.
Because Embiid is also, you know, sort of like Luka, a star that demands the ball and can hold it in long stints, you know, as opposed to right now, you know, you look at these teams and it seems like they're a team of equals. Everyone kind of holds their own, you know, but I think Chicago will come down a little bit. Whether they'll stay in the playoff race, you know, I think I had them out of the playoff race, if I recall correctly, in terms of our standings. But you know, they may stick in that 7th, 8th, 9th role. But I think I think it's a little bit of a mirage with them.
Yeah, you had them at the let's see, you had them at the 8th seed. That's where you had the Sixers as the 8th seed. All right, I had them as the 11th seed.
The Sixers.
The Sixers. Yeah, the Sixers. You had them at the 8th.
Yep.
I'd had them at the 11th. We're way off right now, bro. All right. And by the way, since we're not gonna go ahead and display this week, but last week, you know, as far as the standings contest, you were at 40. I was at 46. Excuse me. You were at 38. I was at 40. This week, you're at 40, and I'm at 46. So I've gotten a little bit better, and it's mainly because of the East. Right. We're not going to talk about that much more. But anyway, so you're saying that the Sixers are potentially real, and then the Bulls are a mirage. All right, let me ask you this: I brought up the Bucks. Any disappointments that you can observe right now so far on the East? You know, you have, you know, of course, you probably think of the Knicks. The Knicks come up right up. The Orlando Magic and the Knicks, to me, are a big disappointment so far.
Cleveland as well, right? Record-wise, Cleveland's down there. They're in the 7th seed right now.
Yep.
You know, I would also say Atlanta. You know,
they're a disappointment. I agree.
They're a disappointment as well. Their guard is out, right? He's injured for a while. He's not out the whole season though. What's his name?
You talking about Suggs? No, not Suggs.
I'm talking about for Atlanta.
Oh, sorry. Trey Young.
Yeah, Trey Young. Sorry, thanks.
Yeah.
Age kicking in again. Yeah. So Trae Young is hurt, so he's out for a period of time.
Yep.
So we'll see how that comes around. But I would say that Cleveland and New York are probably the biggest disappointments right now, especially in the fact that Indiana, the Celtics, they don't have their whole team.
Yep.
You know, Boston traded away half their team.
Yep.
So I would have thought that they're trying to take advantage of this. Detroit, I'm pleasantly surprised. They're a little better than I had even anticipated. I had them, I want to say fourth maybe. But they're playing a little ahead of that. So
yeah, you actually had them at 4. Yeah. I also had them at 4.
Yeah.
So we're right in line. I mean, they're playing well. They're a good little team, man. So and you picked that one up.
And Milwaukee seems to have a little bit of a resurrection, you know, with Turner and a couple of things, you know, like you mentioned.
Cole Anthony, you know, Turner, Cole Anthony, AJ Green, who could shoot, right? You know, Kyle Kuzma coming off the bench. You know, it's interesting. They're playing way better than I anticipated. So yeah. So all right, man. So we're up against it. Now we're gonna go ahead and go into our weekly Warriors assessment. So here we are, man. Here's what I wanted to bring up. Are the Warriors are they relying on being able to turn on whenever they want, bro? All right. These are kind of the bad habits that the championship team had in years past, that they knew they were good and they knew they could turn it on whenever they wanted to. And it was always a frustration point for me as an observer, as a fan, as a former coach. You know, it's like, oh, what are you guys doing, man? You guys are just letting these teams back in and you're taking them for granted, you know, and they sometimes they end up losing these games, right? And I think we saw that. They were 4-1 going into the game against, you know, the Giannis, the Giannis. How do you say that? Giannis-less?
Giannis-less.
The Giannis-less Bucks, right?
Yeah.
And anytime one of their superstar players of any team that you're facing, when they are marked out, that's a letdown usually, right? It's usually a trap. And sometimes a lot of these coaches will just do that just to go ahead and give their team confidence and also put the other team, you know, at that, you know, in that vulnerable space where they kind of let down naturally as humans. We're like, yeah, we got this, right? Especially if you're good, right? So, you know, and then
by the way, Rollins had a hell of that game.
And former Warrior, okay?
He was part of that Jordan Poole trade.
And Ryan Rollins was drafted by the Warriors, okay?
Yes.
And you know, didn't get that much of a chance to really shine.
Right.
You know, he was the same year as Patrick Baldwin getting drafted by the Warriors. But Ryan Rollins,
he was also part of that trade. It was PBJ, Ryan Rollins, and Jordan Poole.
Yep. Yeah. And it's amazing. And Patrick Baldwin's still playing, but he hasn't emerged as a player yet. Whereas Ryan Rollins has found a home, and he's definitely starting now, and he's showing out, bro. And when he was playing against the Warriors, man, he was kind of hard to defend. He was very fast, you know, he was very quick-footed, right? Yeah. So you know, the Warriors lost that game to the Bucks. Then they went ahead and lost the following game against the Pacers, who were winless, right? And I saw these tendencies that the Warriors were having, that they kind of start, you know, we're better, kind of going through the motions, and they are better. But you know, you have to give, you know, what's the word that Popovich used to give? His term was like, you have to give your opponent, and you know, what is it? Deserving fear? I don't know. Like you have to,
just a healthy respect.
Healthy respect for your opponent. That's what it is, man. And you can't just underestimate because you're better than them, right? You can't just show up and expect to win. And you would think that the Warriors, having won 4 championships, that this culture wouldn't let that happen. And it does still. Yeah. That's what really frustrated me, man. Yeah. So that's the first observation. The other I wanted to make. The second one is the Young Bucks. Okay. This team is going to go as far as their Young Bucks take them. Okay. Correct. Now, Jonathan Kuminga has emerged, in my opinion. He didn't have a great game last
No, but I will tell you, in those 2 games in the East Coast swing, I did see some of his older habits starting to creep back in. You know, forcing a drive, you know, trying to attack when it's not there.
Yeah.
Some of those things were, but again, hopefully it's in check. It was better on this last home game last night. You know, he was a little more, but yes, I see that struggle.
Yes.
Within him.
Yes. But the thing is, now we brought up Podziemski. Podziemski has actually played better. recently.
has.
Okay. Again, you might be listening to our podcast and like, these Cisco kids, they know what they're talking about. I better get my game up, bro. Right. So, and then you got Moses Moody, who stepped up last game too. Right.
Yeah.
And then one observation that you made early before the season even began, you kind of were questioning whether Gary Payton really had a role on this team. Right. And it's interesting because of Will Richard. Right. Interesting enough, Will Richard hasn't really been playing that much lately. It's mainly because, your boy, your U3 and D favorite, dude, Buddy Hield.
All of a sudden, he became a D.
Taking time away from Gary Payton, dude.
I don't know where that came from, man. But that guy, he's really impressed me.
Yeah.
I mean, he has really impressed me. Like, last year I remember when that 3 wasn't sinking. I'm like, get him out of here. Just get him out. Sit him down. It's not working tonight.
You weren't alone, man.
I'm like,
a lot of Warrior fans were.
No, now he's picking pockets. He's D'ing up people. He's much more aggressive. I don't know if it's that buddy with Jimmy Butler, and
It is, man. He feels empowered by that, man. Because Jimmy Butler's the leader of the team. He feels empowered by that. He's like the gesture of the team, like I mentioned last week, man. So if you make Jimmy Butler laugh, you're gonna get power on that team, bro.
That's it. You got the power. You got the dual bobblehead with Butler, and now
yeah. But I got to tell you, bro, the one guy that's really impressed me a lot, bro, is Quinton Post.
Yeah,
I think that guy is the steal of the draft last year. Honestly, I think that guy is a steal.
Well, his defense is significantly better.
Way better. And he's got attitude. That's what I love about him. It's like he really cares out there, right? And anything he does, he's all kissing the crowd, right?
Yes.
He's
like, what's going on? Love me.
Dude. I love that, man. I really am impressed by him. But the thing is that this team will only go as far as those guys take him. So Podziemski, Moses Moody, Quinton Post, those 3, as well as Jonathan Kuminga. He's not really a rookie. He's 5th year now. It's his time.
But he is a young guy. He is.
He's only like 23, I think he is.
Yeah, 22, I think he is. But
22 or 23. He's 5 years in the league, man. It's crazy. But I would say that tonight against the King, because they're playing here in the next 15 minutes or half an hour, they're going to start. This is his team. This is going to be his chance to really show out, man. Because Curry's not playing, Jimmy Butler's not playing, Draymond Green's not playing. This is going to be interesting. I think Al Horford's playing, but dude, I mean, there's a lot of guys out, and this is his time to shine. So we're going to see what happens here, bro.
Yeah.
Anything you want to bring up?
Yeah, one thing is, we're picking on Joker, and Draymond's kind of doing the same thing. He's also out of shape. He's playing himself into shape. One of the things that I find fascinating is how much those habits of turnover, loosey-goosey with the ball, how much the night and day between when Butler is bringing it up versus when Draymond's bringing it up. Draymond is just so much more carefree.
He is.
I don't want to say careless, because I don't think but he is carefree.
I agree.
While Butler is very much, and so these things that you see are typically happening when Butler's on the bench or when Butler's not the primary ball handler.
Right.
And I don't understand why Draymond can't see that. And Curry to some extent falls into that trap as well. He becomes a little careless. These behind the backs, throwing them like 97 feet when there's 2 guys down there defending the player, things like that. Like, I don't understand. Like, Butler is kind of showing them, like, the way Butler plays is the way they need to be playing now.
I agree. And that's why I think he's a great example for the team. And he has become now that de facto leader guy. It's Stephen Curry's team.
Correct.
Like we pointed out last week, they have 3 leaders that all lead differently, right? Steph Curry leads by example, right? Jimmy Butler leads by being a force and being a teacher, right?
Yep.
Draymond Green leads by being emotional and gives a crap all the time and makes people, accountable, right? That's how he leads, right? And Jimmy Butler does the same thing, right? But I agree with you. The team, and I think a lot of the way that their read and react kind of offense kind of leads to a lot of turnovers. But anytime you're a leader of your team, namely like a Steph Curry, plays in a carefree way, doesn't really value the possessions a lot of times. And that's kind of always been his freaking issue. Turnovers, right? And then for years, you and I used to talk about our favorite guys on the team. And I never put Steph Curry at the very top. It's only because he frustrates the crap out of me with his freaking careless passing. But he does so many remarkable things. that Steve Kerr is like, okay, I'll just deal with it, right?
Yeah, you have to deal with it.
Because he's a transcendent player, once in a generational player, right? He's going to go down as probably the top 5 of all time if his career continues in the trajectory that he's in, right? So yeah, you have to take the good or the bad with the good. So
the interesting part, 2 things. One is a little bit of a wild card here. The only player that plays in a controlled way and I think is very smart with the ball is Patrick Spencer. Right now, I don't think he's going to crack, the rotation in that way. But I would like to see him as the primary ball handler when Jimmy Butler's not.
Yeah, right. No, I agree with you. I like that way that guy plays.
Yeah, so he plays very solidly. The one wild card here, though, that would impact, and I honestly don't remember well enough, is what kind of ball handler DeAnthony Melton was.
He's not bad. He's not like a great ball handler.
Correct, but he's a little loosey-goosey, right? He's more on the loosey-goosey side than he is on the controlled.
No, he's more controlled.
Okay, well then maybe he's someone we can look at and offset with Jimmy Butler once he gets back into the rotation.
It's just that he's not a great ball handler. He can do it. He's just not great at it. He's good at it. He's not great at it, right? Okay. I would probably say that Podziemski, is probably a better ball handler than DeAnthony Melton.
Yeah.
But DeAnthony Melton will be smarter about because Podziemski sometimes does dumb things with turning the ball over, right?
And he's not swift enough. He's not fast enough.
He doesn't have the fast switch. He doesn't have the fast switch.
No. Right? Like Spencer is quicker. Spencer can get into holes and get into lanes and
Spencer's an elite athlete, man. All right. Supposedly he's like
he is. And forgive me, Eddie. Again, my old age is kicking in. But the guard that we also had that played for the Cleveland Cavaliers now and he's playing on another team.
Oh, Ty Jerome.
Yeah, we had Ty Jerome, and he's proven to be pretty good. We have Rollins, and he's proven to be pretty good. I mean, we got a little bit of a streak of letting guards go that
that are pretty good.
That were pretty good, and I don't want Spencer to be in that long line of that because I think he can give you more than what we're asking of him.
And that's their main shortage is really having backup guards that can handle the ball, right? That's why Podziemski gets a lot of playing time is because he's kind of like the backup point guard right now until maybe at DeAnthony Melton comes back because he can't play point guard. He just doesn't handle the ball as well as Podziemski. So that is, if I were to point out a weakness, 2 weaknesses on this Warrior team. One is really having a reliable backup point guard, right? Yep. They kind of do it by committee. And then the second one is, of course, their size. I mean, Quentin Post has definitely helped. He's gotten better from a defensive standpoint. He can, he can shoot great. And I love his tenacity. I love his energy. Then you got old man Horford, right? He still can play at 39, man. He's just not going to be able to play every freaking night because he's too old, man.
Correct.
You know? So, dude, I got to tell you, man, you got to buy some stock in Geritol, man. So, there's a lot of these NBA players are starting to play older in their age, right? So
exactly. People out there like, what's Geritol?
Right. We're giving up our age, man. So, all right, brother. Well, hey, man, we are at 53 minutes, man. And we went ahead and covered mainly the West and the East. Some of our observations. We kind of tantalized the podcast by giving you some questions about Wembanyama, if the kryptonite of Wembanyama and how to neutralize him has been exposed. We shall see bigger lineups like the Phoenix Suns, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, like the Houston Rockets. Maybe they can neutralize him, because this guy was on an unbelievable pace. Then we also talked about the Lakers. Are they playing better without Luka and LeBron? I say yes, but it's going to be they can't win without those two guys. But
no, agreed. But like it depends on what your qualifications are for playing better. If you're saying the more the team is involved, you're getting contributors from every possible position, then yes, they are playing better.
Yes, but they can't win without those other guys. But they need to play the way they're playing when those guys come back, right? Then we tantalized a little bit about Jokic. I want to call him the Joker, but it's Joker. Jokic,
the egg Joker.
Yeah. Twan has been claiming that we're seeing possibly the end of his career drawing near, only because he doesn't seem to care that much. And anytime somebody shows up not in shape, that's usually a good sign. The guy still performs at an elite level, bro. Even when
he's still doing he's still averaging triple doubles.
He's crazy,
man. He's a monster.
He's ridiculous.
He's one of the most skilled big men we've ever seen.
And as close as we're going to see to a unicorn, like I said, him and Wembanyama together are the unicorn, right? If you combine the the skill sets of those guys. We talked about the Eastern Conference, about, namely the Sixers as well as the Bulls, and then some of the disappointments that we're seeing, from both conferences. And then we kind of, like we do every week, we're going to cover the Warriors and some of our observations. The Warriors right now are 5-3. They're playing tonight. We pointed out that we think that, they've kind of had this habit of being able to turn it on and off, and they, because they are good, but they're older now. They can't be doing that anymore. And their young bucks, need to step up. They're going to live and die by how well the young bucks play. And so far, they've been kind of a mixed bag, right? The more consistency they show, the more I think you're going to see better results out of the Warriors.
Yeah,
so,
And one thing to watch with the young bucks, real quick, is there's a clear difference in their ability to play home and on the road.
Yeah.
When they were on the road, Milwaukee, Indiana, they weren't helping.
No.
Tonight they're up in Sacramento, so it'll be a good test.
Yep.
To see, it's home. I mean, it's not home, but it's as close to home as
home.
it could be.
Yeah,
it's kind of home.
Home away from home.
Yeah, hopefully they can contribute, and we'll see some good numbers from some of those key players.
Right, man. Right. So anyway, this is Buzzer Beaters episode 62. We are brought to you by grumblingsmedia.com. You can find us there as well as any podcast outlet you can think of. I am Eddie Aparicio. This is my co-host, Anthony Tuan Corral. We're also known as the Cisco Kids. We're here every Wednesday live at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We really appreciate your listening into us, your viewership. We please, if you like our show, please give us a thumbs up. If you like to see other segments that you'd like us to cover, please give us that feedback. We've been releasing shorts recently. Our boy Guillermo, our producer, has been releasing our shorts. They've been getting a lot of views, so we really appreciate your viewership. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and sign off. This is episode 62, Buzzer Beaters. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Have a good rest of the week, everyone.